Hello, and welcome to today's English learning session. I'm so glad you're here with me today. In this lesson, we're going to go over 15 essential words that are crucial for achieving fluency in English. These words are not only commonly used in everyday conversations but are also very versatile, so you'll encounter them in various contexts, not just formal ones. Whether you're chatting with friends, discussing something at work, or simply reading, these words will come in handy. So, grab a notebook and let's get started. All right, let's jump into our first word, rosy. This word is often used to describe something that is bright, positive, or optimistic. It can refer to both a physical appearance, like a rosy complexion, or a situation that seems promising. For example, after receiving the good news, her outlook on life became rosy. This means that her perspective became positive, full of hope. You could also say, the future looks rosy for this company, meaning things look bright and promising. Now, let's move to our second word, contemplate. To contemplate means to think deeply about something, usually for a long period of time. This isn't a word you'd use for quick or shallow thinking. It's about reflecting or considering something seriously. For example, she sat by the window, contemplating her next move in life. This suggests that she was deep in thought, possibly thinking about big decisions. It's a perfect word when you want to describe moments of serious reflection. Up. Next is delusion. A delusion is a false belief or impression, especially one that isn't based on reality. It's often used when someone continues to believe something despite evidence that proves otherwise. For example, his belief that he could win the race without any practice was a delusion. This means he believed something that was far from possible. You might also hear it used like this: the idea that he could change the world overnight was a delusion. This word can carry a strong implication that someone is out of touch with reality. Next, we have blemish. A blemish refers to a flaw, mark, or imperfection that spoils the appearance of something, but it doesn't have to be something major. It's often used to describe physical imperfections, but it can also be used metaphorically. For instance, the small blemish on the vase didn't ruin its overall beauty. The vase might have a tiny crack, but that doesn't take away from how beautiful it is. You could also say, the scandal was a blemish on his otherwise perfect reputation. Here, we're using blemish to mean something that tarnishes an otherwise good image. Let's move on to fiasco. A fiasco refers to a complete failure, especially one that is embarrassing or chaotic. It's used when something goes terribly wrong, often with negative or funny consequences. For example, the party turned into a fiasco when the caterers never showed up. This means that what should have been a fun and enjoyable event turned out to be a huge failure. You could also say the movie was a total fiasco at the box office, meaning the movie didn't do well at all. It's a great word to describe situations that go horribly wrong and cause disappointment. Now that we've covered 5 words, remember, it's not just about knowing the meaning of these words. It's also about understanding how they fit into different contexts. Let's continue. Moving forward, we'll look at candid. When someone is described as candid, it means they are honest and open, often in a straightforward or even blunt manner. For example, his candid response surprised everyone at the meeting. This means that he was completely honest, perhaps even a little too honest. You might also say, she gave a candid interview about her struggles, meaning she was open and sincere in discussing her experiences. Our next word is insight. Insight refers to a deep understanding or clear perception of a complicated issue. It's that aha moment when everything clicks. For example, her insight into human behavior was fascinating. This means she had a deep understanding of why people act the way they do. You might also say, the book gave me valuable insights into the history of the region, meaning it helped you understand something better. Next, let's talk about oblivious. If someone is oblivious, They are unaware or unconscious of something happening around them. For example, she was oblivious to the fact that everyone was waiting for her to speak. This means she didn't notice that others were expecting something from her. You could also say, he was oblivious to the tension in the room, meaning he didn't notice that others were uncomfortable or upset. Now, let's take a look at turbulent. Turbulent refers to something that is unstable, chaotic, or full of confusion and disorder. It's often used to describe situations, times, or even emotions that are difficult to manage. For example, the country went through a turbulent period after the war. This means the country faced a lot of instability and difficulties during that time. You could also say she had a turbulent relationship with her boss, meaning it was full of conflict and difficulties. Let's move on to deteriorate. To deteriorate means to become worse or decline in quality over time. For example, his health began to deteriorate after the accident. This means his health worsened as time went on. You might also say, the situation at work began to deteriorate after the new policies were implemented, meaning things started to go downhill. Next up is pristine. Something that is pristine is in its original, untouched, or perfect condition. It's often used to describe things that look brand new or are very well maintained. For example, the car looked pristine after the detailed cleaning. This means the car looked like it was just bought, clean, and flawless. You could also say, the beach was pristine, with no litter in sight, meaning it was perfectly clean and beautiful. Now, let's cover the word vivid. Vivid describes something that is clear, bright, or detailed, often to the point of being striking or intense. For example, she had vivid memories of her childhood, meaning her memories were very clear and strong. Or, the painting was so vivid that it seemed to come to life, meaning the colors and details were very bright and lifelike. Now that we've covered 10 words, remember to keep practicing. These words will not only help you in conversations, but will also improve your writing and understanding of the language. You can create your own sentences using these words to solidify your knowledge. For your homework, I want you to try and create sentences using each of the 15 words we've covered today. The more you practice, the more natural these words will feel in your everyday language. Don't worry if you find it a bit challenging at first. That's completely normal. The key is consistency. And that's a wrap for today's session. I hope you've learned some new words and are excited to start using them. Keep practicing, keep learning, and soon you'll be more fluent than ever. I'll see you in the next lesson, and until then, happy studying.